Hey, and we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking Street Fighter 6. Capcom seems to be out here with a vengeance to really do it right this time. There's a lot to it. And just so you know, the review copy we've been playing here, all this footage was captured on PlayStation 5. I want to be up front here, though. We're not fighting game experts here at GameRanks. I kindly recommend you to maybe check out Maximilian Dude or even the fighting game specialists at the main gaming outlets. Us here, we're casual fighting game fans, so that's the type of perspective we have here. We're not gonna pander or pretend we're high-level pro fighting game people. We're just gonna give you our insight as people who play Soul Calibur, play Injustice, Mortal Kombat, sometimes Tekken. We just try our best here. So, as someone who just plays them here and there for fun, Street Fighter 6 does bring some interesting things to the table. A couple of nice, smart additions that I think are downright dangerous in a good way. I can see what they're doing here. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Street Fighter 6 immediately just hits you in the face with style and presentation and excitement. There's kind of a bit of a street punk hip-hop vibe to it, and as a game about fighting in the streets, it makes sense. You find yourself actually getting excited for fights, thanks to the menus, the music, the character selection, the intros, the walkouts, everything. They do a really good job here. And the fighting, man, it's Street Fighter, and it doesn't seem like they screwed it up. Again, I can't tell you about, the individualistic balancing or how the iframes work out or anything like that, but I can say it's fun to play, and it seems simple to jump into, but with the depth required underneath. It adds stuff like mechanics, but it's still just a classic 2D fighter through and through. A couple of things you gotta know about. There's the Super Arts meter with 3 levels to build up and unleash devastating, match-changing, over-the-top moves. And then there's the drive gauge. The game calls this, the fighter's energy and concentration, that's what it symbolizes, but honestly, it's yours. You gotta be on and aware of this meter and embrace the constant give and take of it. These 6 bars let you do key special actions, most notably Drive Impact. This is like a hit that breaks through attacks and blocks, kind of like a quick power through, or a way to really humiliate someone you've backed into a corner. It's not the end-all be-all solution, but in a lot of situations, it helps when timed right. Then there's also Drive Parry, which is kind of like a tiny burst of powered-up defense, and a successful parry can replenish your gauge. You can get a perfect parry, I believe. Now, the meter isn't just saved for the end of a fight or specific moments. You're constantly using and working some parries and impacts, and it seems key to win, something that needs to be second nature, like blocking. Now, as an amateur who's still bad at blocking and stuff, I actually tried using these as strategically as I could, and it felt good. Now, you can burn out, you can use up all your meter, you can't use it forever, and if you get hit with a drive impact when your meter is empty, you're stunned. And when you're stunned, you're kind of screwed, so be careful. Now, there are plenty of new fighters to mess around with, which was nice. They all seem to kind of slot in and make sense with all the old fighters, which look really cool and still feel good. It was easy to jump back into the 1 or 2 button combos I've retained over the years, so that was nice. But fights are fast, chaotic, and challenging, but extremely straightforward. Everything is clear and telegraphed well. You know why you screwed up. You can't blame the game here. Especially because the game tries its best to really teach you. There are tutorials, training rooms, things you'd expect, but also 3 main control schemes. There's a very basic, accessible one, which is for super beginners, but then there's Modern and Classic, those 2. Classic is, of course, classic old Street Fighter, where there are a lot of input demands for even some of the more basic moves. But then the Modern control scheme, this is kind of like a hybrid. We've seen some of this in other fighting games, but essentially it's easy to pick up and play. You hold a button to actually enable more access to certain combos, but you can't just button mash. You still kind of need to learn and truly understand the game. Eventually, that's probably going to lead you to wanting to try out classic control scheme, because you'll have more control and access to some more moves you might not be able to pull off in the modern control scheme. There's a good incentive to learn with modern and then eventually adapt into big boy classic mode. It's really well done, in my opinion, and it feels good. This is essentially where it's dangerous. Like I said, this is where they can create an addiction. This is part of like their cocktail that makes up this Street Fighter gateway drug, and it's really smart. You know, you give a more accessible control scheme, right? Which I think Street Fighter has kind of dabbled in before, but like, hey, they make it easy to jump in and learn nuances over time, but you make it attractive to eventually level up to Classic, and then you combine that with a good single player offering. That's how you make new hardcore Street Fighter fans. I found myself learning the game in Fighting Ground. This is where you do custom matches, couch versus, arcade mode with the little ending cutscenes and everything. I fought a lot here and beat arcade mode a few times and messed around with the difficulty, and then I jumped into World Tour mode, which is like a story-based career mode with an open world. There is so much room to really fall in love with Street Fighter here. It's not just 1v1 arcade mode versus couch mode, that's it, and online modes. No, like there's a lot. Like this whole adventure is a big thing. You create your own custom fighter with a surprisingly good amount of options to make like a weird freak if you want, and then you set out on a Street Fighter adventure. Is the story good? I mean, not really, but you get to meet and train with the main Street Fighter crew, and they all have cool intro cutscenes, and it's nice to see them interact, and playing it kind of works as kind of almost like a Yakuza game. Like, you run around quirky open areas, mainly the city, and you talk to weird people, you do side quests, you manage things on your cell phone, you punch people, you buy food for health, you level up. It's very RPG, but it works. The areas have a lot of explorable layers to them, and even if some areas don't feel lively and almost look a little weird and flat, it still all works from a gameplay sense well enough. You can fight anyone on the street at any time, like a random guy, an older lady, bad guys, good guys, whatever. The game just instantly switches into a 2D plane fight mode right where you are, and fights are quick and satisfying, and every character has a level, so there's some difficulty, and it's awesome and satisfying and actually kind of fun to grind. I walked up to a pizza stand, ordered pizza for my character, and then I beat the shit out of the pizza guy. That is a good video game, ladies and gentlemen. You get hooked on trying the different character fighting styles, leveling up, getting money to make yourself look cooler, and see new places. I only had about like 2.5 hours in this mode, but I found it a little janky, but really, again, enjoyable. The frame rate, unfortunately, is not great in this mode, and it actually took some getting used to compared to the other modes, but hey, this mode is still good enough to hook new players in. Again, it worked with me. And then, of course, there's Battle Hub, which is where you access the online fights. You know, this is where the big boys play. I only got to test this out in limited instances because I had early access to the game, but the public stuff is now live and we tested it and it does seem to be working. Of course, time will tell once the community starts slamming on the servers and everything, but the fights online that I had worked well. I got my ass absolutely beat by some guy on the other side of the planet, so yeah, it's working just fine. The hub also serves as a kind of instanced multiplayer lobby where you can walk around as your created character, get into fights, sign up for the real matches with the main players you pick. There's leaderboards you can look at, you can spend in-game money in shops to look cooler, and just do emotes and goof around with other players. Like, it's a nice little carryover from World Tour mode, and it's not the coolest thing in the world, but at least it's like more than just a playlist lobby, and a bit more than it just feeling like a half-assed empty lobby you walk around. I expect it to change over time. It feels like it can be added to. I'm curious to see how the hardcore community takes to this, and that's what I always say with games like this. I can find it accessible, fun, entertaining, but these games live and die by the fighting community. And I cannot speak for them, I won't speak for them, and I think that's going to be an overtime thing. On my end, I still just think this is a good offering if you're just going into the store and buying a fighting game. As someone who dabbles more in Soul Calibur and Mortal Kombat and Injustice and stuff, this is the first Street Fighter game I wasn't intimidated by. And I think that's worth highlighting if I can get anything across to you guys. But hey, that's a before you buy. You know how this works by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion. And now I want to hear yours in the comments. What the hell is your experience with Street Fighter? Are you an original arcade junkie? Are you someone newer to it? Can you beat me? Probably. But like whatever, let's talk about Street Fighter, the series, Street Fighter 6, your favorite character, specifically your favorite new character. Hit us up down in the comments. Now, if you enjoyed this video, the gameplay footage, our insight maybe helped you out, clicking the like button helps us out, so thank you. But, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Lee Fen, I'm disappointed in you.